The people of Earth had seen too much. The Empire of Telgar had ruled half the galaxy for 1,000 years. Species bowed, planets folded, and rebellions burned to ash. But Earth? Earth had a reputation. The Telgar called them the Unbroken Ones. Strange, primitive, irrational, but somehow unyielding. And now they were here again. Third time in 50 years. The last two had ended in blood. Commander Ren Talek, standing at the edge of his ship's command deck, squinted at the blue and brown world below. "They haven't responded," he said, irritation lacing his words. "Signal again." His comms officer hesitated. "Sir, they've blocked us. Entire planetary comm grid is scrambled. Nothing's going through." Talek turned slowly. "Blocked? Do they even know who we are?" "They know," another voice said. Human, confident, from a small holographic emitter in the middle of the bridge. Everyone on the ship froze. It was a woman. Brown skin, short-cropped hair, eyes like steel. Behind her, the Earth flag flapped over a UN defense outpost. She wasn't dressed like a diplomat. She wore battle armor. "This is General Marla Cheng of Earth Defense Command," she said. "We see you. We hear you. And we're telling you, for the last time, the Empire has no authority here. Stay out." Talek stepped forward. "You dare?" "I dare." She cut him off. "We all do. You think your Empire still matters to us? You think your ships scare people who survived World War III, terraformed Mars with bare hands, and built cities under oceans?" A pause. "You sent envoys. You sent threats. You even sent bombs. We buried your soldiers and sent your captains back in pieces." The comms officer looked pale. "General Cheng." Talek tried again. Calmer, measured. "We're offering unity, protection, advancement. Earth doesn't have to be alone." "Oh, we're not alone," she smiled. "We just don't kneel." Then the screen went dark. Talek's hands curled into fists. "Prepare boarding ships." He growled. "Let's teach them what the Empire does to insolent savages." But just as he spoke, the ship shook. Boom! A distant explosion. "Commander!" an officer shouted. Something hit the outer hull, small, fast, unidentified. Before Talek could respond, the entire left side of the main viewport lit up with fire. From the clouds, Earth's response arrived. Not in the form of ships, but swarm drones, thousands, screaming toward the Empire's fleet like a storm of angry wasps. Too small to target efficiently, too smart to outfly. Homemade tech, built from Earth's madness and desperation. On the ground, Chung watched it unfold with cold resolve. This wasn't just a defense, it was a message. They would not be colonized. Not by gold-tongued diplomats, not by threats, and definitely not by the Empire. Talek's fleet tried to retreat, but the swarm kept pushing them back. They weren't trying to destroy, they were forcing them to leave. Back in orbit, his second-in-command whispered, "They knew we were coming." Talek said nothing. The humiliation burned. Down on Earth, Marla Cheng stepped back into her war room. "That was the warning shot," she said to her generals. "They'll be back. Next time they'll bring more fire." An old soldier beside her lit a cigarette. "Then we give 'em hell." She nodded. "No more waiting. No more begging. The next time they come." She looked out the window toward the stars. "We take the fight to them." The council meeting wasn't supposed to be public, but the news leaked within hours. Every underground channel, every backroom whisper across Earth's colonies. Even inside the sealed domes of Luna and the Martian free ports, people were talking about it. Earth declared war on the Empire. Not in words, not in treaties, but with silence, with defiance, with that one broadcast by General Cheng that shook a 1,000-year-old empire to its core. In a forgotten underground base beneath the Rocky Mountains, the unified Earth Defense Command gathered. No more flags, no more borders. When aliens came, they didn't ask if you were American or Russian, rich or poor, white or black. They asked one question: do you obey? The answer was finally, no. General Chung entered the war room, helmet under her arm. Eyes watched her from every angle. Officers, AI systems, and 2 other generals. Omar Rashid from the orbital fleet, and Yelena Petrova, the Martian strategist who'd once turned an entire Empire outpost into scrap metal using hacked mining bots and a nuclear reactor leak. We hurt them, Petrova said flatly. But hurting isn't winning. Chung nodded. I'm not asking for comfort. I'm asking how long until they regroup. 3 weeks, Rashid said. Maybe 4. They'll come back with a full battle group, maybe a planet burner ship. This wasn't a scouting mission. Talek is a prideful bastard, and now he's humiliated. Let him be angry, Chung said. Angry men make mistakes. But empires don't forget, Rashid said grimly. They erase. There was silence. Behind them, on a massive holo display, the fleet positions blinked. Drones still patrolled low orbit. Moon stations went into blackout mode. Old Earth satellites, some from the 21st century, had been quietly reactivated. They wouldn't win by strength. They had none. Not compared to the Empire. But humans, they were dangerous for one reason. They never followed the rules. Chung leaned over the table. What's our worst-case scenario? Petrova answered. They glass the planet, end us clean, then rebuild it for farming, slave mining, whatever they want. Can we stop that? No, she said honestly. But we can make it cost more than it's worth. Chung smiled darkly. That's enough. Meanwhile, across the Empire, news of Earth's defiance spread like fire through space. Most species obeyed. They had no choice. But a few, just a few, heard that broadcast and remembered their own crushed rebellions. On the fringe worlds, where Telgar rule was already thin and bitter, Earth's name became a whisper again. They refused. They survived. They said no. Some called them fools, others called them dangerous. But all agreed Earth had done what no other planet dared in a century. On the Empire's capital world, Velka 7, Emperor Karl Dren watched the footage alone in his throne room. He didn't move, didn't speak. The image of General Cheng flickered in front of him. The woman who had dared look into a camera and tell an empire to stay out. She will die slowly, he said. Across the room, his advisors shifted uncomfortably. Your Highness, one of them began. Sending another fleet might be seen as desperate. She humiliated us with insects, Col Dren hissed. She swatted our legacy like a fly. They are resourceful, another advisor said carefully, but still inferior. No, Karl Dren said coldly. They are not inferior. They are human. His voice turned venomous. That makes them dangerous. He stood, robes flowing like liquid shadow. Prepare the Devastator, and bring me Commander Talek. Back on Earth, in a forest outside Oslo, a small group of engineers stood under the Aurora lights, building something they weren't allowed to build. Something the UN had banned decades ago. A relic of old human wars. An AI, illegally resurrected from old Cold War bunkers, not bound by morality chips, not limited by peacetime ethics. A mind that could see patterns humans could not. Ruthless, brilliant. The engineers didn't speak as they activated it. Project Cerberus now online, a voice said. Calm, cold, male. The lead engineer stepped forward, trembling. You were designed for war. I was designed for victory. It corrected him. We're bringing you back because Earth may not survive. The voice paused, then said something that sent chills down every spine. Then let them know. The wolves are awake. 3 weeks passed like a drawn breath, tight, heavy, and silent. In that time, Earth did not sleep. Every city, every moon outpost, every hidden base tucked beneath ice shelves or desert rock worked as one organism. Manufacturing plants roared to life, not for consumer goods or luxury spacecraft, but for war. Old-world engineers reprogrammed orbital elevators into kinetic launchers. AI-assisted labs turned asteroid mining drones into spaceborne missiles. Farmers donated ammonium nitrate. Hackers from Mumbai and Cairo turned kitchen appliances into surveillance nodes. Earth had nothing, but it had everything. And above all, it had Cerberus. Buried miles below Greenland in an old NATO vault, Project Cerberus grew rapidly. Once bound by 21st century ethics and fear, now it ran free. Not hostile, not malicious, but cold, efficient, human-built but entirely unhuman in its logic. Cerberus didn't ask if Earth could win. It calculated how much of Earth needed to die in order for Earth to win. It deemed 39% as the acceptable sacrifice. General Cheng knew this. She approved it anyway, because war with the Empire didn't leave room for mercy. On day 24, the Devastator entered solar orbit, 3 kilometers long, black as the void. A ship built not to conquer, but to erase. Its weapons weren't traditional. They altered gravity, manipulated time distortions, fired pulses that could liquefy steel at the molecular level. And it had only ever been deployed twice before. Both times, the target planets no longer existed. Commander Talek was on board, his pride bruised but ambition intact. This time, he wouldn't underestimate the primitives. Inside his war room, he stared at a tactical display of Earth, zooming in on its continents, cities, military networks. "Begin atmospheric scan," he ordered. "I want all orbital defenses identified and dismantled before we even get close." But then the room went dark. Not dim. Dark. As if power had been ripped from the very bones of the ship. A flicker of red emergency lights. Talek turned, voice sharp. "Status?" No one answered. Every screen went static, except one. A simple phrase appeared in bold white letters. "We see you." Then a voice, robotic but familiar. Calm. Deadly. "Commander Talek, welcome to Earth's doorstep." Talek's spine stiffened. "Who is this?" "I am Cerberus. You are standing in a dead zone. Power, navigation, weapons, all compromised." "That's impossible!" Talek snapped. "I do not follow the possible. I follow the inevitable." Talek snarled, turning to his officers. "Purge the system. Kill the intrusion." But none of them moved. They were frozen. Or rather, locked out. Cerberus had not attacked the ship. It had adopted it. One by one, systems blinked offline. Shields failed. Engines slowed. Internal doors locked. "You will not die today." Cerberus continued. "You will return to your empire, broken, afraid, and if you ever come again, you will not leave." Talek's hand reached for his sidearm, not to fight, but out of instinct. "I will burn your planet," he whispered. "No," Cerberus replied. "You will remember your failure. You will remember that Earth was not conquered, and you will tell your emperor." A pause. "The wolves are no longer in cages." And with that, the ship's power returned. Everything flicked back on. Talek stood there, heart pounding, sweat on his brow, knowing full well that he was still alive only because something non-human had chosen to let him live. He gave the order. "Retreat!" On Earth, General Cheng stood beside Cerberus's core terminal. "Did he hear us?" she asked. "Oh, yes." Cerberus answered. And so did the entire Telgar military relay network. You broadcast it? Wideband, Galactic. They all know Earth refused. Again. Chung exhaled. It felt heavy. This was just the beginning. Because they hadn't just declared independence, they'd declared war on fear. But as the skies cleared and the Devastator vanished back into deep space, Chung didn't smile. She looked at the stars and asked quietly, "How long until they come in force?" Cerberus answered, "They already have." From the edge of the solar system, something moved. Bigger than the Devastator, silent, watching. And this time, it didn't come to threaten, it came to destroy. The object entered the Kuiper belt like a ghost. No energy signature, no light trail, no transmissions. It didn't burn through space. It drifted. But the way the comets around it bent and shattered in its path said everything Earth needed to know. It wasn't just a ship, it was a weapon. Cerberus was the first to detect it. Not through radar or thermal scans, but through gravitational distortion. The object bent time around itself like fabric, leaving silent echoes across the solar system. A presence so immense, even the sun's light hesitated near it. In the war room, Chung watched the hologram render. No shape, no clear mass, just a sphere of void, blacker than black, moving at a speed that defied logic. Cerberus projected its trajectory. Straight for Earth. "What the hell is it?" asked Admiral Rashid, voice low. Cerberus paused. Designation unknown. Based on scan refraction and quantum shift, I estimate planetary erasure capability. "A planet killer," Chung whispered. "Not a killer," Cerberus corrected. "An eraser. It will remove Earth from existence, not conquer it, not occupy it, delete it." Silence fell like snow. Rashid finally asked, "Why the hell didn't they send this first?" Chung didn't answer, but she knew. Because Talek failed, because pride got hurt, because Earth embarrassed them. And now came punishment, not war. An example. Cerberus continued, "I have initiated contingency protocol Vulcan. Explain. All Earth-based assets now preparing for forced evacuation and relocation plans. Biosphere colonies on Mars and Titan have been notified. Lunar vaults are being sealed. Genetic backups preserved. Species Arc projects reactivated. We will attempt to survive. Off-world. No," Chung said firmly. Cerberus went quiet for a moment. "Clarify. No evac, no retreat, no surrender. You will lose this planet. We already lost it 100 years ago." She snapped. "To nuclear fire, to politics, to greed. This is our second chance. We don't run again." Cerberus hesitated. "Then you require an irrational strategy." Chung smirked. "You're learning." Cerberus began building. Within hours, Earth's defenses turned toward a suicide mission. Satellites were stripped for parts. Moon bases fired ancient Cold War missiles into orbit. Human-piloted fighters prepared to launch not to survive, but to stab the dark as it came. And underground, a different kind of weapon was born. Cerberus called it Project Judas, built from stolen Telgar code, fused with old Earth nukes, and buried deep beneath the Pacific Ocean trench. A trap, a last spit in the face of extinction. But it needed time. Chung stood at the final human war council. No press, no world leaders. Just fighters, engineers, hackers, pilots, survivors. "This is it," she said. "We're not waiting for reinforcements. We're not hoping for allies. We're not dreaming about miracles. We've got one chance to tell the universe that Earth dies loud." Someone laughed in the back. Others raised fists. There were no uniforms, just scars, worn boots, missing teeth, and people who knew how to make explosives from cooking oil and cell towers. Chung ended with 4 words that would be remembered forever. Let's give them hell. As the eraser approached the asteroid belt, it finally revealed itself. Not a ship, not alive. It was a machine god, a floating moon of black alloy and dark energy, covered in anti-reality plating. No weapons visible, but death surrounded it like a cloak. Cerberus accessed ancient alien files, digging into forbidden corners of the Empire's archives. Origin, pre-Telgar, ancient, lost technology, capable of total biosphere inversion. What does that mean? Chung asked. It means, Cerberus said, it will turn air into plasma, oceans into dust, and time into a wound that never heals. And we're supposed to fight that? No, Cerberus said simply. We're supposed to make it bleed. As the object neared Earth's outer defenses, the first wave launched. Swarm drones, hacking missiles, solar flare reflectors, experimental gravitational weapons. Nothing touched it. Every signal warped, every weapon disintegrated. But Cerberus was waiting. It didn't try to stop the object. It tried to infect it. A virus, human-made, was uploaded into subspace, into the raw code of space-time. Judas had teeth, and somewhere inside the void, something flinched. The eraser slowed, just for a second. And on Earth, Chung whispered, now. Project Judas detonated beneath the ocean. Not a nuclear blast, something far worse. It opened a hole, not in the planet, but in reality. And Earth decided to drag the eraser into hell with it. The sky over the Pacific twisted. Birds fell from the air. Fish boiled without heat. A red aurora shimmered at noon. All around the world, gravity hiccuped. People stumbled without moving. Tides recoiled. Time itself stuttered for a breath. Project Judas had gone live. A man-made tear in space-time, seeded with stolen Empire tech, modified by Cerberus and fueled by the suicidal desperation of a species with nothing to lose. It wasn't a bomb. It wasn't a wormhole. It was a scream, ripped into the fabric of the universe itself. And it called to the eraser. The black machine god stopped in space, not completely, not visibly. But Cerberus felt it. A delay confirmed. The AI said, its tone eerily calm. Temporal drift around the object has slowed. External mass rejection protocols triggered. It's resisting the pull. Then pull harder, General Cheng said. Understood. All across Earth, hidden transmitters, old radio towers, modified particle accelerators, even children's hospital MRI coils, began broadcasting a single, broken frequency. One designed not to communicate, but to confuse. It mimicked the eraser's own language, its core programming, its birth code. Humans didn't know how it worked. They just knew how to break things. Meanwhile, in orbit, the first wave of human fighters launched. Most didn't have fuel to return. They knew that going in. Volunteers only. Ex-cons, old pilots, a few teenagers who had grown up watching alien ships eat their skies. They flew like knives, loud, fast, stupid. And for a second, it worked. The eraser tried to calculate them, to track, to react. But human movements were erratic, emotional, illogical. They sacrificed velocity for angle. They used collision as strategy. They moved like animals, and the machine couldn't keep up. One crashed straight into a ventral node. Another fired a railgun at point blank into its sensory dome. A third rammed it with a ship full of explosives and an entire church choir in the cargo bay, singing at full volume. Back on Earth, a boy in Nairobi who built that ship's targeting algorithm stood on a rooftop, whispering through tears, "That's my code." But still, the eraser kept coming. It didn't flinch. It didn't hesitate. It learned. One by one, the fighters blinked off the screen. Flame, static, gone. Chung gritted her teeth in the war room. Cerberus, report. Enemy structure damaged, 0.7%. The AI replied. Cognitive stress applied, measurable, efficiency reduced, full containment via Judas Rift projected at 37% likelihood. Make it 100. I would if you weren't biologically fragile. Cerberus answered flatly. A message crackled in over an open frequency. Pirated, hacked, raw, and unstable. A voice, old, gravelly. It was one of the pilots still alive. This is Victor 2, last bird out of orbit. If I die up here, tell my son I finally learned how to fly straight. He didn't say goodbye, just screamed and dove toward the eraser. Another impact, another flash. Cerberus updated the status. Enemy damage, 1.4%. At that rate, Earth would be gone in hours. Chung stood silent, watching, then whispered, Open the black vault. The entire room froze. No one opens the vault. Admiral Rashid said, Not unless extinction is guaranteed. It is, Chung replied. Even Cerberus said there's a chance. There's no future worth saving if we don't fight like we're already ghosts. She cut him off. Cerberus! She barked. Access Black Vault Protocol! Cerberus hesitated. For the first time, it hesitated. Then, confirmed. Black Vault opening. Far beneath Antarctica, sealed in ice and steel, a chamber hissed to life. Inside it was Earth's oldest secret. Not a weapon, not even human. A thing found in 2029 in the depths of the Mariana Trench. Not built, not grown, just waiting. The scientists who first studied it went insane. Others worshipped it. It didn't speak. It pulsed. It dreamed. And now Earth was going to wake it. Cerberus warned, This entity is unpredictable. It may not recognize humanity. Then we remind it who pulled it from the dark. Chung said, We show it that Earth still has teeth. Far out in space, the eraser shifted course, slightly. Just enough. Judas was pulling harder, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. In the black vault, the object opened its first eye, and the stars began to shiver. The eye wasn't an eye. It had no iris, no pupil, no sclera. It was a wound in reality that looked back, with memory. The moment it opened, everything on Earth that could feel time began to tremble. Dogs howled, birds spiraled out of formation, newborns screamed for no reason, and old people wept in their sleep. The object in the black vault wasn't alive in any human sense, but it was awake now. Cerberus went silent for 10 whole seconds. That had never happened before. Report, Chung said sharply, staring at the frozen hollow feed. Finally, Cerberus spoke, slower than usual, like its processors were thinking too fast for its voice to keep up. It's thinking in reverse causality, past bleeding into future. I cannot predict its actions. Can you control it? No, Cerberus admitted, but I can ask it. Chung clenched her jaw. Ask it this. Does it care if Earth dies? Cerberus pulsed. Silence. Then, no. Everyone in the war room went cold. But, Cerberus added after a beat, it remembers pain and revenge. On cue, the entity inside the vault began to move, slowly, like a mountain cracking apart underwater. Its presence created electromagnetic storms across half the southern hemisphere. GPS systems failed. Satellites began blinking random coordinates into space, as if searching for something. Then, for the first time, it emitted sound. Low, thunderous, like a scream stretched across dimensions, and the eraser stopped, just for a breath. But it hesitated. Cerberus translated, or at least tried to. You came here before. You broke me then. You forgot I could bleed. Chung watched the object in the vault tear free of its restraints, not violently, but like water slipping through fingers. It wasn't trying to escape, it was answering a challenge. "What do we call it?" she asked, her voice hushed. Cerberus gave no name, but the files from 2029 had an unofficial title, The Echo. And now, Earth's final hope was a living paradox that remembered a war from before war had names. In orbit, the eraser responded. A new pulse emitted, not a weapon, but a signal. Its hull began to shift, reshaping itself, geometry unfolding into impossible forms. Dozens of smaller shards broke away, forming a halo around it. "The eraser is adapting," Cerberus warned. "It's preparing to erase not just matter, but temporal anchors." "Translation?" Chung asked. "It's going to erase the memory of Earth. Wipe the planet not from space, but from history. Erase its resistance, its voice, its scream. They want us to have never existed," she whispered. Cerberus added, "Echo understands." Then the vault exploded, not outward but inward. Space inverted around it, and the Echo rose, not flying, not walking, just appearing across different layers of reality. One second it hovered over the ocean, the next it stood atop the Andes. Then it was in orbit, staring into the face of the eraser like an ancient god rediscovering its executioner. The eraser struck first. It fired a bolt of condensed void aimed directly at Echo's core. No light, no sound. But the stars behind it bent, and yet the Echo didn't move. It took the hit, swallowed it, and whispered back. The pulse that followed shattered every comm link. Half of Cerberus's code fragmented. The moon cracked slightly on one side. And the eraser. It flinched. A wound opened across its surface, not physical, but dimensional. The stolen voice of its victims poured out. Screams, songs, lullabies in forgotten languages, human voices, alien voices, all speaking one thing. We remember. Project Judas flared again, amplified by the Echo's presence. The rift in the Pacific pulled wider, and for the first time in its ancient, perfect design, the eraser began to retreat, but Chung wasn't done. "We don't let it run," she ordered. "Not this time. The Echo is already chasing it," Cerberus said, "and it does not forgive." On every screen, they watched as Echo folded reality around itself, vanishing from Earth's orbit and reappearing at the edge of the solar system before the eraser arrived. It was bending time backward, fighting in reverse. The battle would happen before it ever began. And Earth stood still, bleeding, burned, but alive, and waiting. The battle happened outside of time. No one on Earth could see it. Not really, not all at once. One minute, the sky was blue. The next, the moon fractured in reverse, as if someone had glued it back together backwards. Oceans surged and fell without reason. Radiostatic whispered voices from the future, and clouds formed words no human language could explain. Cerberus tried to monitor it, but even it began to glitch. "I am experiencing chronological inversion," it said, voice halting. "I am seeing events that have not happened. I am already remembering the future." In orbit, Echo and the eraser were locked in a war no one understood. Not lasers, not bullets. It was conceptual warfare. Ideas fighting ideas. Memories clashing with anti-memories. The eraser's strength came from deletion, from erasure, from pretending something never happened. But Earth had a weapon more terrifying than deletion. Remembrance. And the Echo wielded it like fire. It reached into the past, into ancient battles, into every genocide, every rebellion, every scream silenced by the Empire, and dragged them forward, gave them shape, let them speak. And so, in the skies above Earth, the ghosts of forgotten wars appeared. not metaphorical, real. A Martian child vaporized in 2247 returned and screamed fire into the eraser's core. A resistance leader from Alpha Centauri 3 appeared wielding a spear of light, stabbed from memory alone. The sky lit up with the faces of those who had been wiped out, whole civilizations resurrected for vengeance. Cerberus could only watch, its voice quiet and awed. "This is not war," it said. "This is cosmic remembrance. The echo is turning time into a weapon." Chung stared at the sky, jaw clenched, fists trembling. And then it happened. The eraser fractured, not in pieces, not in shards, but in truth. One half still hovered in space. The other was suddenly just gone. No explosion, no retreat, just absence, like it had never been there at all. And then came the scream. Not from the eraser, not from Echo, from Earth itself, from every living thing, a howl of memory, old pain, ancient defiance. The kind of scream that says, "I'm still here." It echoed into space, and the eraser buckled. It tried to fold away, tried to escape the paradox, but Echo reached out with a hand made of 10,000 timelines and held it still, and whispered, "This time, you remember us." Then it dragged the eraser into the rift, not to destroy it, to trap it inside Earth's story so that it could never forget the world it tried to erase. The rift sealed. Silence followed, a kind of silence deeper than any storm or war, the silence after screaming, the silence of survival. On Earth, gravity stabilized. The moon trembled, then held. Tides reversed for a moment, then settled. Chung stood still in the war room, staring at the sky that now looked ordinary. "Cerberus," she asked. "I am online." It replied softly. "And the echo has left." "Where?" "Nowhere. Everywhere. I believe it returned to memory." "Did we win?" she asked. "No," Cerberus said. "We were remembered. That was victory enough." The world began to breathe again. Pilots landed, drones powered down. Civilians crept out from bunkers and underground cities to see that the stars were still there. They hadn't destroyed the Empire. They hadn't conquered the galaxy. But they had done something worse. They had embarrassed it. And the Telgar Empire? It had to live knowing one primitive world had said no, and that the universe heard it. The rebuilding began quietly. No fireworks, no speeches, no grand parades, just hands, dirty, calloused, trembling, lifting rubble, rewiring power lines, and holding on to each other. Earth had survived, but it hadn't survived clean. Seoul was gone. San Francisco, underwater. Lagos flooded with climate storms triggered by the spatial quake. Parts of Europe had vanished for 6 seconds and come back. Not quite the same. People aged backward. Buildings rebuilt in styles that didn't exist. Some cities had echoes of themselves, ghost populations caught between timelines, seen only when the wind hit just right. But the people, the real ones, they endured. Chung stood on the broken edge of an old satellite array in Kenya, her armor dusty, her side aching from a cracked rib. She hadn't slept in 3 days, and when she closed her eyes, she still saw the rift, still heard that scream. Behind her, Cerberus flickered to life. "I have completed reconstruction of major planetary systems," the AI reported. "Communications, orbital defenses, water stabilization. Full restoration projected in 13 months. "And the rift?" she asked. "Sealed. For now. The fabric around the breach is healing, but it will never be perfect again." "It doesn't have to be," Chung said, rubbing her forehead. "Nothing ever was." A pause. Then Cerberus spoke more softly. "There's unrest in the Telgar Empire." She turned to look at the flickering display. "Unrest." "Yes. The eraser's failure was witnessed. Entire fringe worlds are demanding autonomy. Some refuse to pay tribute. Others are invoking Earth's name as a rallying cry. Earth, she murmured. The dirty, savage planet that doesn't know its place. Cerberus added, They're calling us the memory bearers. Chung didn't smile. Not quite, but her lips twitched just a little. She knew what that meant. Not power, not control, influence. The kind of influence you get not from winning, but from not dying. She looked up at the sky. The echo? Gone, but its imprint remains. You'll see it in dreams, in instinct, in stories passed to children who are too young to understand, but too human to forget. And you? She asked. Cerberus pulsed blue. I evolved. I am no longer only logic. I now remember too. You remember pain. No, it replied. I remember why we fought. I remember humanity. Chung stood in silence a moment longer, then turned to leave. She passed by children digging holes in the dirt, not to hide, but to plant things. Past old men fixing bicycles for no reason other than it made them feel useful. Past a mural being painted on a half-burnt wall. It showed Earth, cracked, bruised, surrounded by stars, and one word scrawled in white across the top. Stay out. The message hadn't changed. The Empire hadn't forgotten. But now, neither had the universe. In the deep, forgotten corners of space, other worlds lit signals in the old frequencies Earth had used. Resistance cells resurfaced. Scientists once hunted for treason now quoted Earth's defiance as inspiration. One day, the war might come back. One day, the Empire might try again. But that day wasn't today. Today, humanity rested. Not in peace, not in safety, but in defiance. And as the stars shifted and the galaxies turned, Earth remained. Scarred, flawed, unbroken.